regards to Mike Evans here. You've got him in tier 5, Matt Harmon. And to be honest with you, I feel like that's a little disrespectful.
I do think we saw a small decline from an individual perspective with Mike Evans, but like a lot of this doesn't have anything to do with Mike Evans. His quarterback is probably Baker Mayfield this year.
Look at the release.
There's your separation.
Great route.
Stutter and go. Gets by clean.
That is unbelievable.
Maybe the greatest catch I've ever seen.
Okay. A man who has seen a lot of January as of late is Mike Evans with the aforementioned Tom Brady that you talked about there. The Matt Harmon half PPR tiers, his rankings are on the site right now. Go to receptionperception.com. We dove into it a little bit at the end of last week. I want to dive into it specifically in regards to Mike Evans here. You've got him in tier 5, Matt Harmon. And to be honest with you, I feel like that's a little disrespectful. I'm not going to lie. Tier 5's got some dudes in here, bro, that you are not all that high on, okay? You've got Jerry Jeudy in this tier. You've got Mike Williams in this tier. Christian Kirk you love, but Jahan Dotson, Gabe Davis, that you've pointed out a lot of warts in his game. George Pickens, we've talked about extensively with a lot of warts in his game as well. And then a rookie in Jackson Smith and Jigba. I look at tier 5 and then I see Mike Evans. It's like, I mean, just a flashing headlight of like, yo, why am I in this group, man?
Well, listen, I mean, that's all really fair, what you said. It does feel disrespectful to have Mike Evans there based on what he's accomplished. To me, all of these guys from a pure fantasy perspective are like very volatile wide receiver 3 candidates. Like I can see all of these guys, George Pickens, for God's sakes, Mike Williams, Jahan Dotson, Gabe Davis. I can see all those guys having like 4 for 120 and a touchdown. And I could see them having, 2 for 20 or something like that.
Right.
And being very volatile and I think Jerry Jeudy fits into this group too, although I know a lot of other people have him higher. I'm not going to have the Jerry Jeudy conversation again, but
right.
Like that I think that's this group from a fantasy perspective. And I get it. Mike Evans obviously has accomplished a lot more in his career than a lot of those players. And, he's a guy that I've gone to bat for over the last few seasons in terms of like his actual ability. I do think we saw a small decline from an individual perspective with Mike Evans. He was right around between 2019 and 2021, between 70.3% success rate versus man and 72.7% success rate versus man coverage. He had one of his best seasons ever against press coverage in 2021. Dipped down to about 75%, dipped down to 69.3% success rate versus man coverage. So maybe a small little decline there from an individual perspective, but nothing major. I also think the way that they used him last year didn't really make a lot of sense from a go route perspective. When you go look at his reception perception route chart, it's a lot of stuff that doesn't make a ton of sense when you consider that Tom Brady was getting the ball out at like 2 seconds, like literally 2 seconds flat, and 27.7% of Mike Evans' sampled routes and reception perception were go routes. You can understand why last year was a down year for him, even if he didn't take a major step back as a player. Like, I still think Mike Evans can be a really good starting outside receiver, even if he's sort of in that back nine of his career. But like a lot of this doesn't have anything to do with Mike Evans. His quarterback is probably Baker Mayfield this year. Like,
yeah. Okay.
I mean, dude, that's bad. Okay. Like the funny thing about, is going back and forth with people still to this day are like, yeah, I mean, Odell Beckham, he had a couple good moments with the Rams, but he wasn't really good with the Browns. It's like, hello, I think now we've figured out, history has indicated what the problem there was with the Cleveland Browns. He's not the same player as Mike Evans, but you think about Beckham, you think about DJ Moore. Those guys are all outside receivers that run like big boy NFL #1 wide receiver routes. That's what Mike Evans is going to do. It's not like Chris Godwin's more that slot guy, like a souped up version of Jarvis Landry. I think if one of these receivers is going to survive the Baker Mayfield disaster, it's probably going to be Chris Godwin, not in a super great way for fantasy either, like not a ceiling perspective, but like and catch 80 balls, 90 balls, something like that with Baker. I just worry that the stuff that Baker struggles with the most are the throws deep outside the numbers that Mike Evans is primarily going to run those routes.
By the way, I want to go back to that 9 route percentage. That's just, it's stupid. I mean, can we just say what it is? It's stupid. He ran, almost 28% of his routes last year were the 9 route. That makes absolutely no sense. He's one of your best players in addition to Chris Godwin. And you're essentially taking that chess piece off the board because your offensive line is absolutely decimated. It just doesn't make sense. Tom Brady obviously doesn't want to get hit, and rightfully so. He's about 1 billion years old. Any hit's going to cripple the man. That's fine. But I'm just saying, he's getting the ball out, as you mentioned, 2 seconds. Fastest release time in the NFL. He wasn't messing around, man. It was quick game all day long. I just don't understand. You're going to tell one of your best players, just go ahead and run go routes. Okay. Why? He's not going to have time to get open. It didn't make any sense. I thought it was stupid. The play calling in regards to Mike Evans. Why do it this way? I just don't understand why do it this way. That part of it was just disappointing for me in regards to Bulls.
You're right. It was a huge issue that I think makes Evans's season look worse and made the Bucs offense worse overall.
I think what you've highlighted with Mike Evans too is that he's not just a go route specialist. That's not just what he does. This is a guy that can play and run routes all over the field. And so to kind of pigeonhole, and you would think of all the teams, Tampa Bay would know that the most about Mike Evans, that this guy can actually run the full route tree. But they took him off. Like I said, I thought he was a chess piece that they took off the board with strange play calling, a third of his plays going in over the top on an offensive line that's decimated and a quarterback that doesn't want to stand in the pocket and take big hits and launch him downfield. It just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. But I want to get back to the tiers because, again, I thought maybe there was some small slippage as you had wrote about in your profile with him, but still in over the top, even though he was running, more than 30% of his routes over the top, still looked awesome, man. 60.9% success rate on the 9s in 2021. He improved on that in 2022. He went from 60.9 to 62.9 in 2022, and also saw a pretty chunky increase on his success routes on the post and corner compared to 2021 in 2022. In that intermediate area of the field, okay, maybe not so much. But in over the top, Matt, this guy was again, as good as advertised.
100%. Yeah. He's still, I get from the one perspective why you want him running those vertical routes, because he's really good at running those vertical routes, right? That's one of the trump card abilities in his arsenal. And
right.
He also, by the way, is still a great contested catch player.
Yeah.
He had some issues with drops at different points last year, whatever, but he still won 78.6% of his sample contested targets last year. That remains a big time ability for him. I just as we're talking more and more about this, like the clear strengths that are still a part of Evans's game, winning downfield, getting open downfield, being a vertical X receiver, winning in tight coverage. I mean, my God, dude, these are all the worst parts of Baker Mayfield's game as a passer. I'm just very concerned that there is no real ceiling for this offense present with these quarterbacks. And like you said, I think Bowles is still a conservative coach. Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator, now comes from Seattle. I like that hire and everything, but I don't know, man. I just really think that I don't see it with Evans in fantasy this year. And it's just not I hate that because I love the player, but it's just not a guy I've been drafting often.
Last year, Mike Evans, 127 targets, 77 receptions, 1,124 yards, 6 touchdown catches for Mike Evans, his lowest touchdown total since 2017, 9 consecutive years of 1,000+ yards. To be honest with you, I just feel like I don't think it matters. I think he just gets the job done.